Hello everyone and welcome to Baron's Den. Well, it was going to be a news update, but it's old news now really, isn't it? Norse have been out since Tuesday and we kind of knew about them the weekend before through a leak. So, this is more of a news/reaction video, because I was a bit too keen to get on playing Norse and I didn't do a news video. So, yes, surprise! Norse are the team in the Season 7 Blood Pass. They're the new team added to Blood Bowl 3. And I, for one, am extremely happy about that because they are one of my favourite teams. I've run them quite a bit in tabletop, particularly at tournaments, and had a fair bit of success with them as well. So I know that they can perform well. So what I'll do is we'll just talk about what's new, and I'll just give my reactions. We might give some ups and downs as to what I think has come out, with not just with Norse, but with Season 7 as a whole. Okay, so let's begin with Norse. I think the first thing to talk about is what do they look like. So I tell you what, if we go into recruitment, we can see the, if we go into customise, we can see the different players, can't we? And so let's start with the raid alignment. So they look pretty good, pretty similar to how they are in the book. The only thing I would say is that we haven't got the female counterpart, which is a shame. It's not a surprise, because they only really released one skin for the lineman, but it would be nice to have had the female version as well as the male version. So hopefully that will be an option in the future. But generally looks pretty good. They look how they should. They've got the Norse aesthetic pretty well, mixed in with obviously sports Blood Bowl type equipment. And yet they're not supposed to be very well armoured, which I think comes across there with what he's wearing. So that's good. We have the Valkyrie. So the Valkyrie is the female runner slash thrower from before, kind of combined into one to make the Valkyrie. Brilliant player on the team. But I'm just going to focus on what she looks like at the moment. And yeah, looks very similar. She looks very similar to how her model is. The only thing I'd say is, to me, her face looks... Can we zoom in a bit? Oh, I can't do that on here. Face looks a bit weird to me. I don't know why. But other than that, yeah, looks pretty good. And again, she's supposed to be fragile, but, fairly quick. And I think that comes across with what she looks like. Then the Ulf Warrener, one of my favourite pieces in the game. And I think represented very well. Very similar to the model that you get when you buy the tabletop team. But also suffers from one of the only problems with the tabletop model is that really we feel it should just be a bit bigger. I do appreciate that strength comes in different ways, and I think the strength of a Ulf Warrener is more in his kind of ferocity. He's always had kind of lean strength, so he's well built, but he's toned. He's not huge like a big gun. But even so, he does feel a little small for strength 4, and sometimes I'm finding him hard to pick him out from some of the other players. So I'm looking to get an update on him that makes him stand out a bit more, perhaps. But other than that, love the way he looks. The Yeti looks fantastic. Certainly, I think one of the best looking big guys. And with customization options, you can make him look even more horrific. And then we've got the Beerboar. Now, the Beerboar looks wonderful. I think he looks great. The only thing I would say is he's massive. Well, I say massive. He's still small, but he doesn't look strength 1 small. To me, he looks more strength 2. Which, when you think about it, when you think about wild boars in real life, they are big animals. Of course, this is the Warhammer world, and the rules are slightly different. But even so, when I saw this, when I've seen them in action in Blood Bowl 3, I'm thinking these guys would easily floor a Snotling. So I don't quite see how that represents strength 1. But perhaps that's more to do with the rules, and that maybe they should be strength 2. I don't know. But even so, he looks great. I'm looking forward to seeing what other customizable options you will get for them later on. So that's how they look. As for how they play, this is not a guide video as such, but what sort of team are they? I love Norse because traditionally they are more bash. They get involved. They're quite an offensive team. They've got skills that allow them to do that. But I love them because I think you can play them more as a mid-range team. You can flex to either be more bashy or more dashy depending on who you're playing, and I always love that. It's why I love Necromantic as well. I feel like both of them can do both jobs well. The counter argument would be to that is that they're not superb at any one job. And the problem if you get stuck in with the Norse is this right here. So apart from the Ulfwereners and the Yeti, everybody else is 8 plus or below, with the beer balls being 6 plus. So they do get removed fairly easily. As you can see, I've already played a couple of games and I'm missing a player through injury. But they come with some great starting skills. So the Norse Raider lineman comes with block, which is brilliant. On a lineman that's cost 50,000, it's fantastic. And I prefer a Raider lineman to a human lineman, because what you're doing is you're swapping one armour for the block skill. And I think that's certainly worth taking. And obviously, to add armour on, it costs a lot in SPP, but not in team value. So I think they're great. And then the next two skills almost feel like balance-wise counteract each other. Thick Skull makes such a difference because these players with their low armour are going down more often. Being able to stop them from being knocked out half of the time is great. So a roll of 8 isn't going to see him knocked out, it's only going to see him stunned. So that's really good, and that's new for Blood Bowl 3 and Blood Bowl 2020, when the Norse team was re-released a couple of years ago. And the other new thing is they've now got a nega trait, which is Drunkard, which means because they enjoy beer, they're a little bit light on their feet. Not light on their feet, clumsy. And they suffer an extra -1 penalty when attempting to rush. So at best, you're only going to ever be rushing these guys with 3 pluses. And it will certainly mean that most of the time you're never going to rush with your lineman, which doesn't sound too bad, but the amount of times you're one square off basing somebody that you need to, or providing an assist, or completing a blitz, and you'll think you might get caught out and think, oh yeah, that's fine, and you'll click, and then you'll forget that it's a 3 plus, not a 2 plus, or it will psych you out of even having a go. I very rarely rush with linemen now, so it is a nega trait, but it's not. It certainly doesn't break the player. We've got our we'll go to the Valkyries next. Valkyries are really interesting players because they've got catch, dauntless, strip, pass, and strip ball. Which, ignore the block there. That's because I've leveled that one up. So they are a kind of a combination between a passer, a catcher, a ball sacker, and a hero basically who's going to take on high strength things. But they're not brilliant at any one of those jobs. So they are still 2 skills away from being really useful at any one of those skills. But it does mean that you can go in so many different directions with them. I mean, the most common ones I'd say would be your block, dodge, sure hands, ball carrier, and your wrestle, tackle, and then obviously it's already got strip ball to be a good ball sacker. But you could lean into the throwing capabilities and go for accurate and pass. Sorry, not pass. You've already got that on the ball, things like that. Or you could lean into a dirty player because you've got sneaky git and dirty player both on primaries. Be a bit of a waste if you ask me, but if you really wanted to, you could do that. You could even make a nuisance player with diving tackle and sidestep. So there's so many options, and that's why, again, they're fantastic players. But you are going to have to build towards something. Then you've got the Ulfwereners, who are brilliant, really. They're strength 4, but they are still movement 6. They've got no nega traits. They are the toughest pieces on your roster. They can't pass, but they come with Frenzy, which is obviously a double-edged sword. Frenzy can be wonderful, but it can also lead you into problems. So getting block on these guys is a must. But once they've got block, they become phenomenal players. I really love Ulfwereners, and they'll do a lot of good things for your team. And finally, we have we've got our beer boars. Now, beer boars are brand new, along with the Valkyries. And at first, I remember the reaction when they came out, and people were just utterly dismayed that there's this boar on the team, and they didn't have a place in Blood Bowl, and they'd be useless. And I'm pleased to see that those people were wrong, and they are not useless. You'll see that I'm running 2. That's only because I find them amusing. I'm certainly not suggesting you run 2, but having one of these guys is really useful because they're such a low cost at 20k. And if you look at what they can do, all right, their movement is slow. They've got no strength, so you're not really going to be blocking or blitzing much with these guys. Average agility, no passing, and terrible armour. So you look at that in isolation, you think, well, that is terrible. But they have dodge, they have stunty, and titchy, which means they are 2+ dodging anywhere. So they can even go for cheeky little cage dive, ball sacks. But what they're really good for is fouling. Because they're only 20k, you're not going to care if this guy gets sent off. And if you can get sneaky git on them, you're going to reduce the amount of times he's going to foul. And even if he just gets rid of one player, unless you're fouling snotlings, nearly every other player is going to be worth a lot more than 20k. Imagine if you happen to go for a chance foul on an ogre or a rat ogre and took 150 piece off the board with a 20k beer ball. They have a use, definitely, and it also helps you build your roster because, to begin with, if you want that to be your 11th player, whether you're playing tournament style rules or whether you're building a ladder team, you can take a beer ball early on, which allows you to spend money elsewhere in the team. So I think they're really useful and a great little mixture. And as for them not being right for Blood Bowl, I mean, you play Blood Bowl over the years. It's always been cartoon. It's always been daft and ridiculous. So for me, they perfectly fit in, and I love them. And finally, we've got the Yeti. Again, I think a criticised big guy, but not for me. He's great. You have to manage him a bit more because of his lower armour. He's only armour 9+. Similar to the Rat Ogre in that respect. But he's strength 5, he's movement 5. His nega trait is the Unchanneled Fury, which a lot of people don't like because you can't really do anything about it, unlike Animal Savagery and Bloodlust. But at least with Unchanneled Fury, it doesn't end in a bonehead. So you'll never lose tackle zones, you'll never lose access of your skills. At worst, you'll just have to have your activation ended. And so a 2+ if you're blitzing or blocking, 4+ if you attempting just to move or do other actions. So, as long as you're mainly blocking or blitzing, this guy's going to be really useful. And because I'm quite a defensive coach, it really pleases me to know that at no point is he going to lose his skills and his tackle zones. He's still going to be useful, even if he's wasted his activation. And of course, coming with claws, you'd probably rather have Mighty Blow. But given the meta of Blood Bowl 3, where you see a lot of orcs and dwarves, having a player who starts with claws isn't such a bad thing. You have got to be careful, though, because Frenzy can lead you into traps, and people are going to love to foul this guy because he's a lot easier to remove than some of the other big guys. So that's the makeup of the team. But like I said, this isn't a guide video, so I'm not going to go into skill development or rosters or anything like that. I just wanted to give you a feel for what the Norse team is like. So, if I go into this team, one of the other things that we've had come out in Season 7 is the Norse Arena. So this is really cool. This very much feels like you're playing like a tabletop tournament, because the teams are split into different tiers, and according to the tier that your team is in, you can build a team using the custom teams to a certain value, and then add on some skills, and then you can run that team into a competitive. I think it's a 7-match tournament where you've got to keep winning basically to stay in, and at the end you get I think you get a customizable option for your coach tag, a bit of pride that you've managed to conquer the arena. So I think you're allowed to lose once, but obviously that is quite tricky. But if you look here, I think the tiering's pretty fair. You've got Dark Elves, Dwarves, Lizardmen, Orcs, Shambling Undead in the top tier. Those are the teams we see all the time because they have been playing the best. Then you've got Elven Union, Human, Necromantic Horror, Norse, Skaven, Underworld Denizens, and Wood Elves. Oh, look! Underworld Denizens! Yeah, not in the tier 1. Interesting that, isn't it? So, yeah, as you can see, this is basically the remainder of the tier 1 teams, plus Necromantic Horror, interestingly. I think maybe our Elven Union Human tier 2 normally as well. So it's like the top end of the Games Workshop tier 2 and the rest of tier 1. Then you've got tier 3, which is the bottom end of tier 2, which is your Black Orcs, Chaos Chosen, Chaos Renegades, Imperial Nobility, Nurgle and Old World Alliance. And finally, your bottom tier are your Stunties, your Goblins and your Halflings. I think this is pretty fair. These are the strongest teams currently in Blood Bowl. These are very good teams in Blood Bowl. These are the teams that a good coach can get a tune out of, and with careful play, a bit of luck and some skill development can be extremely good, but just take a bit more work. And then these are obviously your stunty teams, which are handicapped by their starting skills and player types, but still have the potential to cause utter havoc. And then there's some additional rules about skill stacking, star players, whatnot. It's good to see that quite a few of the don't want to say broken star players, but very powerful star players are banned in certain game modes. So this is the arena mode. I think it looks really interesting. I think you'll see a lot of the competitive coaches being drawn into this this mode. But if I just click on here, I did build a team for an arena. So you kind of ignore the team value once you've bought your players, because it actually adds the skills on to your value, but that doesn't apply for entering the tournament. But it also lets you pick inducements, which is really good. So you can build in your star players or inducements into your value of your team, which allows you then to pick these before you start your matches. So they're not like inducements within game, they're inducements that you literally build into your roster and that you'll have each time you play, which is really good, particularly for those tier 3 teams. But also if you want to run a team that's going to be fouling, you've got your bribes, and if you want to run a star player or two. Okay, whilst we're talking about star players, we've only had a couple of star players added. So when we come to do the ups and downs, I'll... Right, sorry about that. I've now got a Lizardman team up. And as we can see, 2 of the new stars they've introduced are Drool and Dribble, which are a bit of a tag team, skink, fouling, injuring combination of nightmares. So first of all, you've got... we'll start with Drool. I think he's the less powerful of the 2. He comes with... He's basically your skink stats, but he comes with Sidestep and Stab, which is really useful. Obviously, Loner. We'll come back to the special ability. And then Dribble comes with a Dirty Player and Sneaky Git and Sidestep. So where one has Stab, the other one has Dirty Player and Sneaky Git. So they're a bit of a fouling, stabbing combination. But their special ability is that if one of them is removed from the match, the Loner of the other... what is it, this one? Is it the Loner of the... Oh, no. That's the elf pair. That's right. So their one is that if an opposition player is marked by both of them when they perform a stab or a foul, you add +1 to the injury roll. Yeah. So that's why they're such a great combination. Sorry, I'm thinking of the other star players I'm about to talk about. So really powerful. I'd probably say that Dribble is more powerful because fouling with Dirty Player Sneaky Git is far more devastating than your stab. But we also know that there's a lot of low armour teams, particularly with the Norse in there, where stab will be useful as well. And obviously, Drool can help out Dribble with his fouling by him also marking the player. So potentially together they can be awesome. And what they're also great at being is just skinks. They can still do everything a normal skink can do. And I think they really come into their own when you actually see them on other Lustrian Super League teams, which we don't have any of at the moment. But when the Amazons come along, Drool and Dribble are quite nifty on that one. And then the other star players that we've got, which I've already alluded to by getting their special ability mixed up, are the Swift Twins, if they're in here somewhere. There we go. So we've got Lucian and Valen Swift. Okay, so as for their stats, movement 7, strength 3, edge 2+, passing 2+, and armor 8+ on Valen makes him a typical elf, really, like wood elf speed and agility. In fact, he's pretty much, apart from his passing 2+, he's like a wood elf thrower, isn't he? And then Lucian Swift is the same, except got one better armour, so a bit more like your Elven Union Blitzer, but also they're obviously nowhere near as good at passing. So Valen is your thrower, Lucian is your Blitzer. You have to buy them as a pair for 340. Lucian comes with accurate, nerves of steel, pass, safe pass and sure hands. So some decent passing skills there. He is a very good passer of the ball. And Lucian comes with block, mighty blow, and tackle. So a great little killer for the elves. The downside to these guys is you're not going to ever see them, because the teams that can take them are very rarely that low down on TV. And if they are, I don't know if the Swift Twins are necessarily the answer. And if you try to bake them into your team for a tournament, let's say, obviously you wouldn't be able to do that in Norse Arena because I don't think any of the elf teams can take stars. But let's say they could, you'd lose so much from your team just to accommodate these two. You'd end up thinking, am I better just taking a Elven Union Blitzer and an Elven Union Thrower and sticking some skills on them, because it would be a lot more cost effective. So it is a bit of a shame, actually, but they do look cool, and they are good players. It's just, are they worth the money that they cost? And that's what you've got to consider. So that's the new star players. As you'll know, and this will be something I talk about when we sum up, there are no Norse star players, which is a real shame. The ones they've put in are 2 for the Lustrian Super League, but they are, again, you buy the 2 together. It's one price for both, and they've got that for the Lustrian Super League and these for the Elven Kingdoms League, or whatever it's called. Okay, so let's go to the Blood Pass next. So the Blood Pass for Norse is back to how it was in the other seasons. So you've got 50 levels. On each level you get a new item, whether it's cosmetics, new dice, pitches, all that sort of thing. Obviously now they're putting on these little tags that you can put underneath your name, underneath your coach name. So there's those to unlock as well now. And as you saw with an update, I think in the last season, you can now do a lot more to customise your gamer tag up here. As with every Blood Pass, every few levels you get something free. There's a variety of good stuff on here. You do get a Norse ball, you do get Norse dice, you get Norse dugouts, but you don't get a Norse pitch, which is a real shame. I don't know why they haven't gone for a Norse pitch. And especially you've got 2 sets of dice here, but no Norse dice. But there are some good things on here. And if we skip through, just so you can have a quick glance. I'm not sure about these dice. They look a bit stressful to look at. Very cool, but yeah. And this is the other problem. Normally when it's around level 50, you'd be picking up the coach for yours. The Norse don't have a coach. For some reason, well, I know what the reason is, because they haven't given them any star players. Very much expecting to see Ivar Eriksson as both as a star player and as the coach for the team, and he's nowhere to be found. Instead, you can unlock Grim Ironjaw, who is not Norse, and he's not even a Norse dwarf. So it's a bit random and a bit disappointing, if I'm honest, that they haven't included a Norse star player or a coach. But there are still some cool things at level 50, and obviously if you haven't paid for Norse, when you get to level 50, you can unlock the team. But that's not all, because if we pop out of this and go into manager progression, you can now continue progressing past level 100. So you've got all of these things that you can now unlock. So a lot of these things we've seen in the shops, like you've got Orc cheerleaders, Beast, Chaos Chosen cheerleaders. Some of the new manager customizations are in here. So there's some cool stuff here, and it allows them to give away some more stuff that, to be fair, would have been nice to get in earlier Blood Passes for those starting teams. All the way up to level 150, where you can be the Legend of Legends. So it's good to see that that's been expanded upon now. And obviously, talking about your manager customization, you can choose from these tags. If I choose Skull Crusher, you'll see that it appears under there now. So that if you're wondering what that was, that is what it is. Oh, have I got to keep one now? Oh, well, we'll take Berserker for now, as we are playing as Norse. So that's new. What else have we got? They've still got the quests in there, the weekly quests that give you more XP. Oh, one thing I'd say about manager progression, it's a lot slower. You need a lot more XP on your manager progression to go up the levels than you do the Blood Pass one. Or so it seems to have been for me so far. The shop looks like it's been expanded a bit, because I've noticed that, there's more things to click on and to have a look at. So hopefully that means they're offering more things out. This guy's amazing. That's a necromantic horror coach. I love that. Anything else we want to look at? So if we look into the official ladder, not much has changed here. But there is a new TV limit, which I think, is it 1750? Well, I've forgotten now. But there is a new top end limit. You can queue more than one team at once, which is really, really useful. And I think there's a speed run where it would record your first 20 games, although I haven't yet to see where that is, if that's viewable. whether that's recorded in the background. I don't know yet. So that's another new thing for this season. And I think that's just about it, really. If I think of something else, I will edit the video. But I think that's most of the new stuff that you've got to play with. So is it worth jumping into Blood Bowl at Season 7, or even picking up Season 7? So we'll do a bit of a roundup now, talk about the ups and downs and whether it's worth it. So if you've already invested in Blood Bowl and you've been playing it like me since the start, this continues the good work that they've been doing of building this game up. So I feel like it's one of the seasons that's come with the most add-ons to it. There's with the arena, with a lot of the manager customizable options. I can't say that word, can I? There's a lot of things that I feel like they've been added, and I think they're all good improvements for the most part. Whereas some seasons you've literally just got the new team and a couple of bug fixes and the and the season pass. It feels like we've been given a lot more extra stuff, which is really, really promising. So I'd say if you're somebody who has been playing every season, there's no reason not to get this one, because it's carrying on the good work that they've done. If you have been choosing which season to buy, depending on whether you like the team, then I'd very much carry on in the same vein. You'd still get some of the options, I believe, anyway, even if you don't buy the DLC. And it's a question of whether you want to play Norse, I suppose. I do recommend giving them a go because they are one of the more interesting teams, in my opinion. They've got a decent power level without being broken. You will find there's games that you just can't do much about your opposition's armour breaking your armour. And you'll even try and stand your players away. But they'll come in with a mighty blow piece, blitz you once, break your armour, and injure you, and you'll get frustrated. Those games do happen. But equally, their block keeps them alive, their thick skull keeps them on the pitch, and there'll be more fragile teams that they'll absolutely mince through. So if you haven't tried Norse yet, I would definitely recommend giving them a go. And then, for those of you who haven't got into Blood Bowl 3 yet, I would say this is a very good season to begin. I think some people were disappointed with the number of teams that the game started with. That's obviously slowly been increasing. But I think because so much has come with this one, there are now different ways to play, and there's 20 game-accurate teams now. The 20 teams that you've got in there, I think it's 20 now, are very accurate to the tabletop now. They're virtually the same. It might just be a few missing abilities or something like that. But even those abilities have started to come in now. The star player abilities and the ball and chain trait. So some of the things that were missing are now in there now. You've got a nice mix of teams. You've got different ways to play. So I think if you were on the fence still about whether you wanted to start Blood Bowl 3, maybe you still play Blood Bowl 2. I think now might be the time to move over if you haven't already. I think Blood Bowl 2 now, none of the teams are accurate to tabletop. Largely because the passing game has changed so much with the passing skill. But also, a lot of the teams have changed. If you think about it, Necromantic Horror, Lizardmen, Norse, they are different from how they were in Blood Bowl 2, regardless of just the passing stat. And of course, you've got new teams you can't play in Blood Bowl 2, such as Chaos Renegades, Black Orcs, Imperial Nobility. So it does an Old World Alliance. So I think the old argument of Blood Bowl 2's got more teams now. They still do have more teams, but Blood Bowl 3 has more, accurate teams now. Now, if you like the teams in the way they used to be, that's fine. But I think if you're wanting to play something that's close to the tabletop, obviously, fumble. But now Blood Bowl 3 is really getting there, and I think now might be a good time to jump in. So I'll finish off with the ups and downs. I'd say the look of the Norse team is an up. The fact that you can carry on your manager progression is also an up. And the battle pass as a whole looks pretty good. I'm going to give that one a down, though, because I can't understand why we haven't got a Norse star player and a Norse coach. That, for me, is a big down, and a pitch. That feels like it's not finished and it's not been completed. And I can't think there wasn't a decision where they thought, let's not do that for this season. That's got to be because they ran out of time, or they couldn't get something to work that they wanted to, because there's no reason why we shouldn't have at least one Norse player to be in there, to be the coach, and also to be a star player option. So that's unfortunately a down for me. The Norse Arena is brilliant. Another way to play, which is fantastic. Not just the ladder. So that's an up. The only other down I'd say is it's a bit disappointing that we haven't got the Eternal League yet. But at the same time, I'd rather them hang on and get that right, because a lot of people won't understand the importance of that because they want to play multiplayer. But for a lot of people, having the option to play a decent solo campaign is important, because if you've got families, if you've got limited time, you might not be able to queue up a game and sit and play solidly for an hour and 10 in a multiplayer game. You might have half an hour where you think, oh, I'll play a bit of a match and then I'll pause it, or I'll put it to one side and put my child to bed, and then I can come back and carry on playing. So having the option of a decent one player is really useful as well. Now, the AI hasn't been really up to scratch to have meaningful games up till now, but there has been talk of an improved AI already for this season, and hopefully they're looking to improve upon that even more and give us a decent one player experience. The other thing is, sometimes it's just nice to try a team out. In season 6 I actually had another go at the campaign again with goblins, because I thought, well, let's see what it's like without the fear of running into constant dwarf teams in the ladder. Thought, let's play a variety of teams. And yes, it's not representative of opposition coach quality level of coaching, because the AI is terrible, but at least it gives you an idea how to build, and it lets you play different kind of players. And yeah, I just think a nice one player mode should sit alongside a good multiplayer as well. So yeah, a bit of a down that's not in this season, as the roadmap suggested, but I'd rather them not do it if it's not ready, and take the extra bit of time to make it good. So that is season 7, I think, in a nutshell. I would definitely advise getting it and jumping in. You can see from the amount of people playing, that was as high as 24 different pages yesterday, so there's definitely been more people been playing recently. I think you're still finding more in the ladder than you are in the arena. How many have we got in the arena at the moment? A few. I'm sure the arenas are very attractive to the competitive coaches, but I definitely want to give it a go as well at some point. But right now, I'm just happy to be playing lots of Norse. So there you have it. Right, well, thank you very much, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the gridiron playing Norse. All the best. Bye now.